So why do we think On Her Majesty's Secret Service is so different from other Bond movies?
It's the best of the lot as a film. I think it's the best film.
That's a side of Bond that we'd never really seen before, or arguably since.
But I would say the scene that sticks with you.
Do you love spy books, movies, and TV? Then the Spybrary podcast is for you.
Hello and welcome to Spybrary episode 281. Far up, far out, far more. It's Section F. It's our division here at Spybrary that analyzes spy films and movies. Joining us today, head honcho over at the Hildebrand Facebook group, Ian Douglas. How are you, Ian?
I'm very well, sir. How are you?
Great. And a big shout out to Hildebrand. I'll put a link in the show notes. It's my favorite 007 Facebook group. Very civil. Always learn something new every time I go on there. So well stewarded. And I heartily recommend it. Spybrary approved to all of our listeners who aren't familiar with you. I can't imagine there's many.
Very kind.
Next up, returning to Section F, we have author Andy Onyx, the man who scribed Like Dolphins, one of my favorite spy reads. Thoroughly enjoyed that one. He even put playlists together for his books. Go check them out on Spotify. Welcome back to Section F, Andy.
Hi, Shane. Hi, everybody. Glad to be back. Thank you.
And last but not least, welcome back to Professor Michael Huey. I haven't been calling him by his proper title. Michael actually does teach theatre, and he's also acted in the past as well. So he knows his stuff when it comes to film and plays. And welcome back to Section F.
Always a pleasure, Shane.
And the host of Friday Night Frights, which is, do you want to tell us a little bit about the podcast?
Yeah, it's a sort of classic horror movie podcast. Skews along the Hammer lines, if you're a Hammer fan. But we take in anything that sort of has the classic horror gene.
Fantastic. So go check that out, and I will add a link in the show notes. So today we are tucking into On Her Majesty's Secret Service. We felt with it being Christmas time, we're recording this December 21, 2025. We wanted to get a Christmas movie Section F out. So this is a good one to tuck into. James Bond, 1969. First up, I want to come to you, Ian. When do you remember watching this movie for the first time?
Well, it was actually my first Bond film. It was 1970, and I was 7 years old. And I was taken with a couple of my friends who were brothers and their parents from down the road. And I don't know if I knew much about James Bond before then, but I absolutely loved it. And it just changed everything. And that was the starting point for me. I remember it very clearly. I've seen the film lots of times since, but the trouble was I didn't see it again for many years because it never seemed to be on TV. So over time, I'd forgotten quite a bit of it. But then it came on TV. I ended up getting it on VHS, DVD, seen it lots of times. I've seen special screenings at the BFI and at Pinewood. Met a few of the characters in it, a few of the actors. So it's a very special film for me, one of my favourites.
Please tell me you went out on the lash with George Lazenby, because I imagine it must have been one heck of a night out.
No, unfortunately not. I did go to one of the screenings where he did a Q&A afterwards, and he was great. He doesn't really talk about other Bond actors or other Bond films, but he likes talking about that. And he's a very good raconteur. I suspect some of it is a bit exaggerated, but he's good company. So I'd imagine on a night out, he'd be good fun.
Fantastic. Andrew, how about you? Do you recall your first viewing of On Her Majesty's Secret Service?
I think I do. I think it would be probably a rainy Sunday or something like that, and it come in on the TV in the afternoon or early evening, and me being a little bit like, who's that? And my mum probably said along the lines of, oh, he's Bond, but he only did one, you know? Because at that point as a kid, I would be aware, I'm really Roger Moore kind of vintage, but I would be aware of Connery. So that would have come as a bit of a bolt from the blue, and I don't think I was that impressed really as a kid, you know, whether it was tainted just by the look of him. But you got to remember, I was scared of bloody John Thor as DCI Regan as a kid. You know, he used to frighten me, and so did Alvin Stardust. So George Lazenby was probably in the same camp, you know. His piercing look probably put me off a little bit as a youngster, you know.
And how about you, Michael?
Probably in the 70s. Over in America, you know, these Bond films were on ABC's Sunday Night Movie. And to me, this one was the winter sport one. So I remember after seeing this one, just thinking, I want to see skiing in every Bond film. So that was my initial reaction to it, was the skiing, the bobsled, and everything.
I'm with you, Ian. You know, this was very rarely on British TV for sure. Very rare it was shown, and I remember as a kid being just a huge James Bond fan, not being that taken with it. And to that extent, I remember as kids, you know, you'd play James Bond down the park, and I obviously would be Roger Moore. My best mate would be Sean Connery, and him over there, you can be that George guy.
It would make for a great
Which
film.
I'm a little bit ashamed about. I'm sorry?
That would make for a great film. The three Bonds.
Yeah. You know, and I'm aging myself then because there were only 3 Bonds, I think, at that time. But, you know, that was what we kind of thought of the movie. It was the oddity. It was the odd one over there. And I'm curious now, Ian, watching this again for Section F, you know, have your views changed on the movie? Obviously, you were a kid when you first watched it, right?
Yeah,
But,
I think.
you know, have your views on this movie evolved over time?
Yeah, I think first of all, obviously, it was the film I loved. It was the film that sort of drew me into the whole Bond universe. But every time I saw a film after that, you know, like Diamonds Are Forever, Live and Let Die, I thought they were better. I think when I saw Diamonds Are Forever, I don't think I realised it was a different actor. I was that young. And obviously
Yeah.
Roger Moore came along, and I knew him from The Persuaders and The Saint, and I was a big fan. He was my favourite actor at the time. So I was very happy for him to be Bond, even though I didn't think he looked like Bond how I imagined Bond. I always thought Connery looked like the perfect Bond. But over the kind of the 70s, obviously Roger Moore was my Bond that I grew up with, and I liked those films better than Majesty's. And it was only sort of later on, maybe in the last 10, 20 years, where I've seen Majesty so many times that I've appreciated how good it was. Because I tend to go back to the Connery, Roger Moore era as being my favourites. But I think the Lazenby one is just a little bit of an outlier. There's so much that I love about it, and it's in my top 2, I would say. So it's definitely gone up in my estimation over the years, but it took a long time to get there. And I think a few special screenings, seeing it on the big screen again, has made a big difference.
I can imagine. How about you, Andy?
Well, the quick route round this is, for me, I think, let's face it, it's the best of the lot as a film. I think it's the best film. And I've obviously rewatched it this evening. I've rewatched it over the years. I got the whole, you know, the 50 Blu-ray classic Bond set years ago. So they've come out over time. But no, looking at it again today, a bit like last week or a couple of weeks ago with Quiller, the stuff that's popped out today that I really didn't appreciate at the time, and I've paid a lot more attention today. But no, I think it's a fantastic film. I think that everything is viewed in posterity because of the kind of calamity that ensued afterwards with George Lazenby. But frankly, apart from the trouble with his accent and the parts that were dubbed, I think for a guy to literally walk in off the street and turn in a performance like that, I think he did a fantastic job. Had he have been kept on for Diamonds Are Forever, we wouldn't even be having these, you know, it came not to pass or whatever. Certainly, after watching the film earlier on, I watched on the Blu-ray some of the documentaries, and the knives were out for the guy before it even hit the cinema, you know, with the press as it was back then, never mind social media today. And we'll probably talk later about the aftermath, and I think that he's sort of been put on record to say that he was very much culpable in not being kept on due to immaturity and hubris. Yeah, so Yeah, that's my opinion, and again, I'll echo Dougie there to say that it's definitely in my top two. I think my favourite is Spy Who Loved Me, but I think that hands down this is the best film. I don't think they've topped it with all the money in the world and all the special effects in the world. They've yet to top it, and I think that's down to the artistry of the Peter Lamont as well, doing all the scenery and the cinematography, and obviously the performances as well. But I think it is top drawer. And if you're only going to do one, it may as well be the best one, isn't it? You know, there's only one Pistols album, isn't there? Yeah.
How about you, Michael?
Yeah, I like it more the more I see it. I would say it's in my top one. Honestly, it's my favorite Bond movie, my favorite Bond novel. I think it has, first of all, I think Andy has a great point about Lazenby. We mentioned this last time. If he had gone on to do a few more, we probably wouldn't be talking about this. But can you imagine? It's the 60s. You got to follow Sean Connery. You're James Bond now. You've never acted. I mean, the pressure, I can't imagine. And to me, the guy handles it beautifully. He's very comfortable and confident in the role. But I think the movie has two things that the other Bonds do not have. Number one, Peter Hunt, I think, is a terrific director. And this was his first film. I mean, just shot by shot, it looks amazing. And number two, George Lazenby has one thing Sean Connery never had, and that is a co-star as good as Diana Rigg. I mean, she is the sort of person, an actor who makes everybody better. She makes him better. She makes the movie better. As far as I'm concerned, she and Eva Green are they're in a tier of their own in terms of Bond films and the characters in Bond films. I mean, we could talk more about Lazenby later, but to me, those are the two things that really set it apart. There are a lot of great things about the movie, though.
So I'm interested, and I'm delighted that you bring up Peter Hunt, but he didn't get another gig, did he, with Eon? He never got to produce or direct another Bond movie. So I agree with you 1,000%, by the way. I think this was a very different movie, and we can talk about why this is different from other 007s, apart from the obvious. But I think what Peter Hunt, he took some serious risks with this movie, didn't he, Michael?
Yeah.
I think he did, yeah. First of all, the length. You know, it's the longest Bond movie at that time, which I think probably hurt it at the box office. But yeah, I mean, it just, well, talk about risks in the pre-credit sequence. The line that ends that pre-credit sequence where Lazenby breaks the fourth wall and says that line that is one of the best lines in the entire Bond franchise. I mean, I don't know that people appreciate it at the time, but I get goosebumps watching it. It's so perfect, you know, and it's a talky script with some really intelligent lines. I mean, You Must Give Me the Name of Your Oculist is another zinger.
It is a killer
that's
script.
terrific.
Yeah.
And then all the lines, the dialogue between Tracy and Blofeld and Piz Gloria is just, you know, wonderful.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because Peter Hunt was an editor. He'd edited the other Bond movies, so he knew the formula, and he knew Cubby and Harry very well, and he had this idea that he really wanted to go to the source, didn't he, with On Her Majesty's Secret Service? I think this is, and Ian, you're more of a scholar in this than I am, but one of the closest adaptations to the book. I think, you know, the stock car racing wasn't in the book, etc., but so much of this was loyal to the actual book.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's probably my favourite of the Fleming books, just ahead of From Russia with Love. And it is very close to the book. And yeah, I mean, the stock car racing, which is a great scene, but you need those kind of additional scenes to really kind of make it more cinematic. But otherwise, all the details in there, isn't it? I mean, there's a different beginning from what I remember, but yeah, it's very close to the book. And I think that was the right thing to do. And also, of course, Peter Hunt was an editor, so he knew how to get this edited properly. He was an expert at that. He worked on several Bond films, and as a director, I think he should have done more, without a doubt.
Well, let's talk about some of the devices then, because you mentioned the breaking the fourth wall, Michael, and there's other devices in this movie, so they don't shy away from the fact that this is a new guy playing Bond. How were the opening credits for you, Andy? You know, where you saw that montage of previous Bond movies as the titles come up.
I thought that it started great with the silhouette of George running away, like he's running back up the beach to chase after Tracy or whatever. Then it got a bit messy for me. And obviously the emphasis here is to say this is Bond, you know, so we have to go through this kind of show reel of all these other scenes, but make sure that Connery's not in any of them, you know. I felt it was a bit compared to some of the finer Maurice Binder work. I don't know if Maurice Binder did this one.
He did, yeah.
Right. I thought it was a bit rushed. I thought it was a bit non-symmetrical with the, you know, I mean, it sounds very anal what I'm saying now, but I didn't think it was the greatest opening sequence, if I'm honest, if we were charting that, apart from the silhouette of George running off. I thought it was a bit unrealised. It was like it was rushed, or they've ended up just saying, look, that'll do. Let's cut to it. But George's walk is I don't know, Dougie would tell me what it's actually. Yeah,
the gun barrel scene.
Yeah, the gun barrel scene. Superb.
Yeah, really well done.
You can see his athleticism and his walk and his range and the way he moves and the fact that he, somewhat realistically, we may say, drops to one knee to take the shot. I just don't like the trilby.
I'm the same.
Think for a young
I'm
Bond,
exactly the same. You don't need a hat for Bond. It makes no sense to me, but yeah.
No, especially
but he
not
wears a trilby in that scene where he's rescuing Teresa, right? When he's driving in the car, he's got that trilby on. So there is a little continuation.
It's got it in the car, but it's 69. You know, it's 1969. And also the original gun barrel scene. I think it was it 2 or 3 films in, Ian, before they actually used Connery for that? It was a different guy.
Yeah, they used Bob Simmons before that.
And you could see the guy's got short legs and all sorts. You can see it's not.
And they weren't great before that. I think this was the first really good one.
That's right. He's wearing a hat.
Yeah.
But yeah, the gun barrel great. But I thought the titles out, if we were rating across of the whole pantheon,
not the best.
Nah, yeah, not for me, not the best. Yeah.
Spybrary Intelligence tell us that gun barrel scene, he dropped to his knee of his own volition, and they didn't like it, and they had to do the take 25 times, and they ended up using the first one where he did drop to his knee, which is just typical, isn't it?
Yeah, first one's always the best.
Michael, how were those credits for you?
Yeah, I agree. They're not that great. They seem to be just saying, see, it's the same franchise. It's James Bond. Remember these great scenes, you know? But when I watch those credits, I'm just listening to, again, what is my favorite John Barry theme. It's funny how synthesizers became, in the 1980s, something that we were all so tired of and made fun of. But it sounds so fresh and so good in that theme song. I love the music, but yeah, the titles are not the best.
And for you, Ian?
Yeah, I've never really thought about it too much. It does the job. It introduces Bond and it kind of links back to the Connery films. I don't really have a criticism of it. One thing I don't like, actually, is the breaking the fourth wall where he says this never happened to the other fella. I don't remember when I first saw it if I even understood that. But when I saw the film again years later, it just seemed like an odd thing to do. And it still feels slightly odd to me. It doesn't bother me.
And that's the only time they've done it, right,
Sorry?
Ian? That's the only time they've ever broken the fourth wall.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, it just seems it seems a bit unnecessary. I get why they're doing it. They're trying to link him to Connery or whatever, but it just seemed a bit odd. I'm okay with it, but it's not. It makes the film less than perfect, I would say.
It jars with me as well. But what's interesting is I actually really liked the credits as they roll up and seeing Largo and all the others. I like that harkening back to previous Bond adventures.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Even if there'd been, Connery was in the role, I still like, it's still the same guy. For me, it worked.
Yeah, it's fine.
And going back to Peter Hunt, I think these were some of the risks that you think, because later on we have the scene where I believe it's the first time we see James Bond's office.
Yes.
When he comes back from his meal and he opens his drawer and he pulls out all his paraphernalia of all things. I think the knife from
I like that.
Dr. No, and yeah, I
The little
mean,
music
it's the
really
same
like
thing for
over
me
it.
as the credits, right?
And they had the
Sorry.
little
And there's
music clips over it from each film, like
Exactly.
underneath
Yeah.
a mango tree. It's a nice touch.
Did
And
you
great
know?
shot. Go on, Andy.
I was going to say, because there are various nods, aren't they? But did you notice the bit further on in the film where they're going through to Draco's office,
Oh,
and I don't know how we can call him today. The little person is
the cleaning
is
guy, yeah,
is,
cleaner.
is
That's right, yeah. It's very, very on the
Nice.
So there's
nose.
lots of little nods
It's
in there. I
fine,
think
Yeah.
that's great.
But I don't think it falls into parody for me. Other than breaking the
no.
fourth wall, it all worked. It was all
absolutely.
seamless.
And it's
right.
really
Yeah.
subtle when he breaks the fourth wall. He says the line,
Mm.
which is such a perfect line because of the double meaning, and then he just glances at the camera
Mm.
and the music begins. So it's really quick and subtle. It's just, I think it's definitely done. If he was, breaking the fourth wall a la Alfie, then we'd have a problem,
Yes, yeah.
But it's small,
But
I
that's,
think.
It's brief as well. It's very brief.
that's the thing, Michael, because with Alfie, he's definitely talking directly into the camera, isn't he? He's having a full-on conversation with us,
Yeah, he's narrating
the
it, really,
watcher.
isn't he?
That's right. Whereas with Lazenby, it's only kind of at the final millisecond as he's finished speaking that his eye just crosses to the camera. He's not looking directly into. He's almost talking to himself, and then he just sort of catches the camera, walks off
Yeah.
out of shot.
Yeah.
But I've used the line myself, and I think that it works for me. And apparently in the documentary earlier, it said that it got a round of applause at the premiere when he said that line.
Yeah, I can imagine.
All right. So why do we think On Her Majesty's Secret Service is so different from other Bond movies? I'll start with you, Michael. What's this one do differently than the others?
Well, obviously the story, for one. And I think one of the controversial things about it is the falling in love montage. I have a friend who is a Bond fan who absolutely cannot tolerate that moment. He's like, no, can't do it. And it does have a very late 60s kind of feel to it. But again, that's something the more I see, it serves a narrative purpose. They're falling in love. We're telling story here. And that song is Louis Armstrong. It's so beautiful. It's, So I think that's a big risk. The ending, obviously, is really doing I don't know of another film that takes a novel with a downer ending and just sticks to it. It's extraordinary. I mean, would that happen today? Hell no. With a major franchise? Absolutely not. I mean, so that to me is a big risk. And those are the things that make it very different. I think, and there are small things as well. The casting of Blofeld is, I will say, a step in the right direction.
Why do you think that, Michael?
Well,
why do you think that's
for those of us Americans, Telly Savalas always is Kojak, the detective, with the lollipops, and he was kind of perfect at that. So he's a little hard to take as this master criminal, but I was reading that he was the first choice, that Peter Hunt did not like Donald Pleasance. He thought he was apparently Pleasance as kind of a short man. So Savalas is a Greek. Blofeld in the novel has a Greek heritage. He's more menacing. And of the three in this run, I think he's the best. I mean, Charles Gray, they're obviously going in a very different direction, and Donald Pleasance is... Well, I mean, obviously it's impossible to watch Donald Pleasance do it now because of Dr. Evil. You can't take it seriously. So I think Blofeld sort of works. And, we don't have Ken Adam creating an environment for the villain. We have an actual location that feels like a James Bond, hideout that you can go to and visit to this day. which should all be on our bucket lists, let me say. A visit to Piz Gloria. A Spybrary episode at Piz Gloria, live from Piz Gloria, Shane. Make it happen.
That I will make that happen. And if we have enough people dipping into our Patreons, which you can find at, we can fly everybody there first class and have Dom Perignon and caviar from north of the Beluga and do it full on Bond style. I think also, you know, I'm very curious in what makes this movie so different from other 007s, because for me, what we see, and I know we're going all around the houses here, but this movie came out in 1969, so I'm presuming most people have watched it, is, you know, how vulnerable 007 is in this. You see that one scene at the ice rink where he's seriously in trouble. He's seriously worried, and of course Diana Rigg comes and rescues him. You know, that's a side of Bond that we'd never really seen before, arguably since, other than maybe the Daniel Craig movies. 007 is vulnerable, right, Ian?
Yeah, definitely. And I think maybe Lazenby would have been better at this than someone like Sean Connery. I can't imagine Sean Connery doing vulnerable as Bond, but he does it so well. And there has been some criticism over the years about his acting, and some said he couldn't, you know, he wasn't very good at being, say, like Hilary Bray or whatever his name was. But when he was doing the vulnerable part, I thought he did it very well. And you
Yes.
genuinely, I mean, I'm not really one for romances in films, especially not Bond films, but that whole romance I loved and still do. It still kind of engages me, and I still want to believe in them as a couple. And that just makes the whole ending even more tragic, even more kind of, yeah, it's a visceral feeling that, you know it's going to happen, especially if you've read the book. But I think the first time I saw it, I was too young to have read the book, and I would have been shocked. I can't remember my exact reaction, but I would have been in total shock by it.
I mean, it's a bit more believable than the last movie we reviewed on Section F on Quiller Memorandum, where Santa Berger within 5 minutes says, "I love you." At least here, there's been a little bit of courting, right?
Yeah.
And £1 million offered. I mean, come on. I think also what you just mentioned this, Michael, is, you know, Blofeld's very different in this one, right? He's physically threatening. Like, you wouldn't really want to have a straightener with the guy. And the fight scenes are very realistic, and the bobsleigh chase, etc. You know, Blofeld is a very believable fiend. And I think also what's interesting with this Blofeld is he's not after world domination. He's not after a ton of cash. He's after amnesty and recognition of him being a count. So you don't have this almost science fiction kind of goal of the villain of world domination. I thought that was a little bit different. And I think also with the romance scenes, you know, Tracy wasn't immediately smitten with Bond, right? And usually in the Bond girl, you know, the glances in their direction and they're immediately in love or smitten. You know, she kind of pushes back because she's feisty, and that's the whole thing behind her character. I thought that was a little bit different. And I think most importantly was, this is very much a guile over guns James Bond. I mean, there's not many gadgets. The only gadget I can really recall is you've got that little scene with Q at the start about the radioactive lint for tracking people, which is a good seg into M saying, well, I wish we could locate Bond because they're looking for him. And then the scene in Byrne when he's robbing the safe at the lawyers with the, wow, a photocopying machine.
That is huge, that machine, isn't it?
It's massive. I mean,
but it's great because he has to get it smuggled in, you know, via the crane.
And that's a brilliant scene. I love the ingenuity of
great
that.
little music cue as well, and it really does build the
You should have seen the batteries.
And if you look closely, you know, it's one of those things that go into making movies that sometimes we don't appreciate. Is, you know, they had Draco construction signs over the construction building opposite to kind of make it even more realistic. So I like that. So they made that decision. I think that was Peter Hunt that didn't want to have this thing with gadgets. And I think that's what shows 007 as more vulnerable as well. You got the escape scene from Peace Gloria where he uses his trouser pocket linings to get out of there. You know, he doesn't, that was Roger Moore, he'd have some hook or something, some grapple hook come out of his watch.
Yeah.
And, you know, Lazenby didn't have that. So very, very different. And the other thing I picked up upon was the 007 theme was very rarely used. And I think it doesn't really come in until the end. the attack on Piz Gloria.
Yes. It doesn't. It's not.
Yeah, you do
really,
get a little sort of blast of it in the pre-credits when we first see him in the car. The car's driving.
It's very tame in the pre-credits because, like you said at the beginning, it's actually done on a keyboard, and I think that's actually designed for bass strings on a guitar, isn't it? Really, it's sort of tentative at the beginning, but when it actually comes in on the assault, it's like it's been built up, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all been
Building up to
built up,
crescendo.
and then you get the release, and it's like, bosh, this is it. This is Bond. This is the action. And it's very exciting then. Whereas if you go back to the earlier films, I think it was might have even been in Doctor No. They didn't really know how to utilize that theme best, did they? They just had Bond sort of looking around his hotel room and they were playing down, 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 down. It didn't really mean anything. Whereas this time, when it comes in, and when it comes in, it's coming in strong.
Yeah, and it's perfect for that scene, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And what's interesting, when they do use the Bond theme at Piz Gloria, I don't know if anyone else picked up on this, for the majority of the time they're playing that theme, it's actually Tracy having a rumble with the henchman.
Yes, great scene.
Which, you know, she could obviously handle herself because she'd had a couple of rumbles with Steed, right, in Avengers. I think that was one of the reasons they picked her as well. But I found that interesting that, you know, the James Bond theme, most of it was focused on her.
I think that's one of the places the screenplay actually improves on the book is by incorporating Tracy into the final, you know, assault and being really a big part of the reason for the assault for Bond. You know, in the book, that's not the case. And so I think those, like I said before, those scenes between Tracy and Blofeld are terrific. And then she gets her own fight with the leading henchman.
Well, she was a great physical actress, wasn't she? As we saw in the Avengers, and she was a great actress anyway. So I think they got really lucky by picking her to be the Bond girl.
Well, I don't know if it's just luck, you know, because I read she was on double what George was on.
Yeah,
she
really?
got $50,000 for the movie, and she got double, which is again another Bond first, isn't it? I can't think of another Bond movie
worth
where
it, though. I mean, they had a very strong cast, and you know, even Em and Moneypenny, they were at their height, really. Very strong performances, and as we've talked about, Blofeld. I'd say my favourite Blofeld, definitely.
Yeah. And I think also it was smart because they had that experience playing alongside of an inexperienced actor in lead man. So at least with Diana Rigg, she could guide him or coach him and help him along. Although, you know, I mean, I don't know what you think about this. I keep reading things that they didn't get on set, that George didn't get on with a lot of the crew.
Yeah,
I think
you never
he was
know,
reputed to have a big bust up with Peter Hunt and probably didn't talk to him throughout the rest of the and I think I was reading in A.J. Chowdhury's Some Kind of Hero that Lazenby walked past Hunt and Hunt apparently ignored him. And George said, "Hey, Peter, it's me." And Peter was like, "Yeah, I know." Who knows if that's true or not, but there seems to be a lot of the casts and the crew saying that he, you know, if you think about it, it was the late 60s. I think he was the first single, or probably the only single Bond actor. He's obviously playing the field. He's enjoying this massive opportunity. And I don't know if you watched the documentary on him that came out a couple of years ago.
Bond.
That's what I was saying.
Yes.
He definitely relished the role, didn't he? And there's that famous, which apparently the press manipulated when at Pinewood at the canteen, and Diana said, "George, I'm having garlic for lunch." And they were meant to be doing a kissing scene afterwards. And apparently she meant, well, you can have garlic as well. It's not going to...
Yeah.
But that was misconstrued by the scribes.
It's a jest.
Absolutely. So talking of music, so we obviously got the Louis Armstrong track, which, you know, again, was an inspired choice. And as I understand it, I'm not the world's expert on jazz, but apparently that was the last song he recorded.
Apparently so. Boy died. Yeah.
I just saw today as well that the actor Ilse Steppet, who plays Bunt, died just a few days after the premiere as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Really?
I think she's quite good as well. I mean, she's, you know, she doesn't make you forget, you know, Lotte Lenya as Rosa Klebb. She's obviously cut of the same cloth, but I think she's really quite solid as well. It's what she needs to be. As is Gabriel Forzetti, I think, is Draco.
Yes, very good ally.
Exactly what he needs. He's so good, so natural. I love him in the helicopter right before the assault when he's talking to the air traffic people. I think he's really strong.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, reminiscent of Karim Bey, isn't he?
Yes, similar kind of types.
From Russia
Just
with
a good
Love.
ally to have.
I do think maybe
Ducked
we
and
should, since we're talking about actors, we should talk about Lazenby as an actor a little bit.
Mhm.
This was apparently his first acting job, and for that, he does a remarkable job with it. I think in some of the cases, he doesn't, like, for instance, in The Office with Draco, when he's listening to that story, I don't think he seems as engaged. His reactions are a little bit, seem like an inexperienced actor to me. But we've talked about the vulnerability, and I think his lack of experience as an actor actually maybe makes him feel a little more vulnerable, as a character.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, and also,
Physically,
it was his first real acting job, wasn't it? Because the only acting he'd
yeah.
done before that was as a model or in adverts. So he looked the part. He obviously had a lot of swagger, a lot of charisma, quite full of himself, but he hadn't really acted before that. So he really kind of blagged his way onto the gig.
It's
Which
just,
is interesting that, he went to Connery's barber
Yes.
in the basement of the Dorchester, got the Sean haircut. He went to Connery's tailor, Anthony Sinclair, and he's like, well, we can't make you a suit in that amount of time, but here's one Connery didn't want. The bit of the story I particularly like is he went into Saltzman's office, and Saltzman had his feet on the desk and motioned to Lazenby to sit down using his shoe. And Lazenby was like, sod that, don't speak to me with your shoe, and walked over to the window and looked out the window instead. And apparently Harry Saltzman really liked that about him. He thought, oh, this guy's got swagger.
Yeah,
Everyone else, oh yeah, I'll do anything you want, sir. So you can kind of see why they ran with him. I mean, I actually disagree with the three of you in that, yes, I think he did the physical scenes very well, the fight scenes very well, but for me, he lacks on-screen persona. I mean, Connery walks onto you've got that magnetism. I would argue Roger Moore had it as well.
Definitely.
But
thing
he
is,
does seem wooden to me, and it's understandable, bearing in mind it's his first movie. But for me, it's the dialogue scenes where he struggles.
Yeah.
Sorry, Andrew.
I mean, the thing is, as Muhammad Ali said, the will always overcome the skill,
Yeah.
and he really, really wanted it. And it's kind of mind-boggling how someone who hasn't maybe even done, I mean, Michael, of the sort of progression that an actor goes through from drama classes to academic study and being coached on to do stage performances through to Shakespeare, whatever it is. He's done none of that. I think he just did adverts. I think he just so wanted it so badly that he did it. But obviously you're going to come up against it when it's probably before camera as opposed to stage performance where everything's got to be massive. That I understand professional actors, they act differently on stage to the way they do in a film studio scenario, But you can't have it all, can you?
I mean, it would have been interesting doing What Ifery, had he gone on to do Diamonds and others, would he have developed his acting chops, or would it just be like, oh, this guy's like, he's like cardboard, he's one-dimensional, or would he have grown
Would he have
with
been
it?
found out?
But this is the problem. This is the problem when the row happened, as I've said to Jason King when we were discussing it, Stratford-upon-Avon's that way, mate. If you're serious about becoming an actor, he could have done it. He could have gone right back to basics, trod the boards, done Shakespeare like the best of them, But he didn't want to do it. He just wanted to be a film star, And like you say, he did get found out, but he could have done it. Had he, like I said at the beginning, had he had the will to actually become a serious actor, he could have done it, but he didn't have the will for that,
Yeah, I think it's fair to say as well, we'd all give our right arm. I think most people listening to this podcast today would give the right arm to play James Bond, but the amount of work involved in it. So he's come from, not from the film world, and just imagine how arduous it is filming on a Majesty's Secret Service.
Would have been a shock to him.
And then thinking like, Absolutely. I mean, we've heard this from Daniel Craig. He was constantly moaning about it,
Never
right?
stopped.
Sorry to the Craig fans out there, but for Lazenby, and because maybe we'll get onto it later or not, but that decision for him not to continue, maybe that did have a bearing on it. He thought, I don't like being ordered around on a set by these posh lot, and we'll never really know, will we? But
The thing is, if you land the biggest role in the world the way he landed it, it's only going to feed hubris, isn't it? If you've landed that role through force of personality and a bit of luck, you think that you're the biggest man in the world. You think you can walk away and do anything, and that's what he thought. He said it, didn't he? He said, "Oh, I thought it's going towards peace and love. All this kiss kiss bang bang stuff was passé. I'm the dog's
Yeah, he thought it was all a bit square, didn't he?
Yeah, he thought he was going to be the next Olivier just by force of will, and he found out that it wasn't to be.
there is a cast member in this who Ian Fleming thought would be the perfect person to play Bond, and apparently said person was having lunch at the same place as Fleming, and Fleming walked over. I think there was a screenwriter or someone there, said, "Oh, you have to get this guy to play James Bond." Do you know who that was?
George Baker.
Correct.
Yes.
Well done, Professor.
Yeah.
The Professor speaks.
George Baker's awesome, isn't he? I mean, you can sort of see him as Bond
Yeah.
a little bit. But I think Lazenby's, I think we sort of cheer for him in a different way because he's not Connery, and I think there's some scenes, I think in the wedding scene and the aftermath of the wedding scene, I think he is spot on. I mean, that little wave he gives to Moneypenny is just priceless. I mean,
It's a lovely moment.
Makes him human.
Yeah.
But does that make him a great actor, Michael? I
No,
mean,
he's
if
not
I
a great
got
actor. He's not a
$500,000
good
to wave
actor.
at someone.
He's not a good actor. No.
No.
But you can put some people in a part and they work, whether they're good actors or not, whether they've had training or not. It's incredibly frustrating to someone like me, but it does happen. And I think he works. I've seen him in things after this. He's in
The Man from
a
Hong
movie
Kong.
called St. Jack, I think was directed by, I want to say John Cassavetes. I could be wrong about that. Has a smaller role in that. And he's quite good. So I think maybe he did learn some things, but
Apparently he was in that. I haven't seen it. It was in the early 80s movie, The Return from Man from U.N.C.L.E., and he plays a kind of mockery of himself as James Bond.
I've seen the clip.
I was reading the script. Not good?
No.
Well, I don't think that movie itself got good reviews either, but now I'm intrigued to go watch it.
The clip is on YouTube. You can find it. It's very odd. Yeah, I'm not keen. I've seen him in a couple of films. I've seen him in The Man from Hong Kong, which is a martial arts film, which I actually like. I think it's quite good. And another one set in Venice, which is about a serial killer on the loose. He's not so good in that. He's not a leading man, I would say. That's being kind.
The thing is, for this film, if we just sort of imagine all those scenes, whether it was fighting in the sea at the beginning, the kneeling knife throw moment, the sliding on his chest with the Sten gun, the romance with Tracy, neither Roger Moore or Connery or maybe Dalton, but this is George's film, man.
Without doubt.
This is George. This is Lazenby was the one for this film. Connery.
I would agree with you to a point. I certainly could see Roger Moore with his Sterlings, skidding on his chest along the snow. What I couldn't see him doing though is that ice rink scene.
No.
And same with Connery when he's really when he bumps into that polar bear. I mean,
he's scared.
Roger Moore would have taken the polar bear uniform and costume and put it on, and I might have done that as well. I've done a runner in the polar bear outfit because they wouldn't know it's me. But that's why I don't create James Bond movies, right? But that scene, I think I can't imagine the other Bond characters, maybe Dalton, as you say, carrying that off.
But I don't think you need to be a great actor to play Bond. I know, Dalton and Craig are seen as great actors, but I don't think you have to as long as you're very physical and you've got charisma and a swagger, and you can get away with it, as Lazenby did, I think that's often enough. There are moments where, yeah, the lines he delivers aren't great, but that's just it, really. It's more of it's an action film, isn't it?
He's 28 or 29.
I know he looks older, doesn't he?
You know, he's supposed to be, you know, a naval commander at 28 or 29. You know,
Yeah.
so you know, there you have it. But what do you think to his you know, his wardrobe in it? I mean, when he does the casino scene, I mean, and these ruffles and that. I mean, there's only two men in the universe that can rock a ruffled shirt, and he ain't one of them. That's John Pertwee and bloody Jimi Hendrix.
Doctor
You know what I
Who.
mean?
Whoa,
Yeah,
and Jason King,
Well,
Don't forget
yeah.
the Kingo. He can pull off a ruffle shirt.
Kingo, yeah, he could put a bean bag on and make it look good, as long as it's got bell bottoms and wing collar on it, you know. But you know, again, his youth, Lazenby's youth, I think, because what does Lazenby bring to this? He brings youth, he brings energy, physicality, a little bit of vulnerability on the flip side of his hubris, you know, which, you know, I mean, Connery's great. I thought Connery was great in, what is it, the previous one set in Japan.
You Only Live
You only
Twice.
live twice.
You know, and we hear, oh, he was so unhappy. He wasn't, you didn't think, oh, this guy's past it, he's creaking or anything like that, or it's not credible, until you see a guy that's bouncing around in the waves like that, giving it everything.
Yeah, a bit more enthusiastic than Connery was.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
some
no question.
basic latent energy.
I think I mean, you're talking about the ruffled shirt. It does have a late 60s joie de vivre, or you might say, right?
He's off the
I mean,
tongue.
especially when we get to Peace Gloria and we see, you know, the angels of death. But I will tell you, one of the things I like about this movie is Ruby. I love Ruby Bartlett. Angela Scolar, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. You know, I mean, she's so different from most of the sort of supporting Bond girls in that she's from a chicken farm from Lancashire,
She's from Manchester.
Right?
She's got a great accent.
And a great accent. And, you know, she and Bond flirt during dinner.
Yeah.
Does Sean Connery flirt with women? No, he walks into a room and boom, it's like that. They flirt.
Yeah.
And then they hook up in a moderately believable way, considering it's a James Bond movie, which I think is a lot of fun. I mean, if I were cutting this movie, I would probably cut, I think her name is Catherine Schell, the second woman that ends up in his room. I feel like, okay, let's move it along. We get the idea. And then the scene when they're curling and he's like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Like, okay, we got it. He's James Bond. Okay, fine. Let's move it along. But I think it still kind of skews realistic. And I just don't think Sean Connery's obviously, he wakes up in the morning, goes to the bathroom. He's got more charisma than George Lazenby would have at his most charismatic.
Yeah.
But I don't think he works in this film.
No.
That scene is interesting as well, Michael, with Ruby, because apparently that line, they had to overdub it where she's writing the room number in lipstick under his kilt and says, oh, a slight stiffness coming on due to, you know.
Then they add a line to it.
That would have given them a 15 or whatever it was certificate, because they were like, that was a sexual joke. So you had to say in the shoulder.
Yeah.
And then it made it okay
a real
for
shame.
PG, which is...
That's a great line.
I mean, but we all know
the
what he
original
meant,
line would have
right?
been superb.
But that Catherine Schell, she was in everything in the 70s,
Persuaders?
wasn't she? She was in all those...
All the ITC
all
programs.
Yeah, she was in all that. But today, it's the first time I realised Joanna Lumley was one of those girls.
Yes, very young Joanna Lumley, yeah.
And she gets the best line, doesn't it? She says, oh, I know what he's allergic to, because they all think he's a bit limp-wristed, don't they? They all think he's a bit limp-wristed.
And then Jenny Hanley, who went on to Magpie years later.
Yeah, those girls are great. I mean, I was born in 69.
Jeremy's sister, Douglas.
That's right. And the Jamaican woman, Silvana, I've met her at a Bond get-together. Yeah, she's lovely. Really sweet.
Yeah.
Any interesting anecdotes she shared with you about filming, Ian?
She didn't talk about it too much. She was there with her husband, and we went to see Majesty's at Pinewood. This is about 8 years ago. No, she just kind of she just chatted. She was just friendly, generous. Yeah, just, asking about us, what we do and that kind of thing. It was just very, very
Wow.
down to earth. And her husband was very keen to show me lots of photos of when she was filming. It was lovely, really nice moment.
Superb. Michael, you mentioned the curling scene, and when I watched that, I was like, "Hang on a minute, right? This Bond guy, he knows the lot. Goes into M's house, recognizes some butterfly, so he's into his lepidoptery, and then he's up there at Peace Glory, and he throws that perfect curl, doesn't he? When he looks out to Campbell, who's been arrested or picked up, he just does his perfect curl. I'm like, guy can do everything, can't he? He can do everything."
Yeah, but some of it feels like the script was written for
Mhm.
Connery, some of the lines, and especially the line about the butterfly. Connery kind of repeats that joke in Diamonds Are Forever. I mean, there are some things I just that I don't think work. Those lines, it's not tailored for Lazenby, but that's true of the first Dalton film as well. That feels like a Roger Moore film. The one part I really don't think works, and it's for a laugh, is when Draco punches Tracy and knocks her out and says, "Spare the rod and spoil the child." I kind of go, it kind of diminishes her as a character a little bit, because she's kind of this badass up to that point. I know he's got to get her out of there, but I don't know. I feel like, oh, we're in the 60s now, aren't we? That's the one point that really kind of grates a little bit from a modern perspective.
Yeah, but then you have to kind of take it into, in the realm of when it was made, and that wouldn't have been so shocking then, would it? Unfortunately, we've moved on, we've progressed.
It'd be a
So
laugh
if you
then.
think about it,
Yes, yeah, would have been laughed at. Yeah.
I actually, yeah.
go on, Andy.
I
Modern
actually
man.
laughed out loud at that when I saw that this time. Yeah. His line, you spoiled her, haven't I? Sort of thing. It's just so off the wall.
In no way do I support violence against women, but if you
Oh,
think
no,
about
of
it,
course.
he's primed the whole place with a ton of explosives to take it out. She's so feisty, she's going to run
Yeah.
back in there. That was really the last resort, wasn't it? He
Yeah.
doesn't want to lose his daughter.
That's-
So, but she gets a slap in off George early on as well,
yes,
doesn't
at the
she?
hotel. Yeah, early on.
He gives her a smack.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
does
yeah.
happen.
There's a bit of that in this whole series, isn't
Yeah,
there?
Roger Moore in
unfortunately,
The Man with the Golden Gun.
Yeah.
He slaps.
Yeah.
What's her name? Maud
Yeah.
Adams.
Yeah, we don't.
You don't see it
we're
now,
not down with it.
fortunately.
But her whole rebellious character, it's even at the wedding when she says, he says, "Oh, you must obey him," and she sort of says, "Yeah, I will do, just like I do you, Dad." And he just sort of goes,
That's a
"That's my
great
girl,"
line. Yeah. That's brilliant.
But
wanna
what about
talk a-
Yeah, go on, Shane. Sorry,
No,
mate.
go ahead, Andrew.
I was just looking at the notes about the some of the little genius bits of cinematography, like the memory of him splitting with Teresa or losing her at the avalanche, and it's like projected onto glass.
Yeah.
And it's like 2 seconds, but a really crucial bit
Nice
of
touch.
genius to do that, to think of that. It probably took ages to set it up. I've never seen it done like that since. It's normally goes like this, doesn't it? And then you're back in the present,
A lot of the
and the choppers again.
A lot of the skiing cinematography was very kind of new at the time. They had like this Willy Bogner, like an expert skier who was like filming,
Yeah.
and he was like skiing backwards. They had him in a
Fantastic.
kind of parachute hanging off a helicopter as they do all these aerial shots. It was all very new at the time. You didn't have drones.
Amazing.
They were kind of like making up new ways of filming. It was stunning, really.
And the lighting, like at the beginning when there's the very first scene, it's dawn. So to film that at dawn in the south of France, as that clear bright
Yeah.
light is just coming
Yeah.
up. A lot of it seems to be shot at either dawn or
Yes,
dusk.
yeah.
Like the choppers coming in for the
That's
assault.
amazing scene.
I thought that was dusk, but it was probably shot at dusk. But they've
And it's
made out
dawn.
it was dawn,
Yeah,
haven't
yeah.
they? And the light, it's just amazing.
I mean, this film
Also-
is beloved by filmmakers.
Yes.
Steven Soderbergh, who directed the Ocean's 11 films, and just has an entire essay you can find online about how much he loves this movie. And Christopher Nolan was inspired by it for Inception. Inception has an
Right.
assault on a, sort of a winter, kind of place that I think is
Actually,
definitely
I can see
inspired
that.
by this
That's a great
movie.
film.
Talking of the pane of glass there in M's office, they also do something similar with Bond's office when he's looking at Her Majesty and he's having his
Yeah,
His
drink and they got the
reflection.
reflection
Yeah.
superb.
little
Superb
touches.
shot. All of
Yeah.
2 seconds or 1 second, and it's
Very
like, bang,
effective.
got it.
What I think is interesting about this film, though, is it's the one the current Bond movies keep coming back to. I mean, they use the On Her Majesty's Secret Service, the theme, I think, in the trailers for Spectre, and we get, and I think, we don't need to go into No Time to Die today, but to
Thankfully.
me, I feel the entire emotion that I feel when I watch
completely.
No Time to Die, other than frustration, is because of the music from On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and we have all the time in the world and that sort of thing. And I think I read that when they were writing that film, that they were trying to kind of recreate that sort of a moment, except a different character, dies. So
But they rinsed that. They
1000%.
rinsed several things from Majesties because they use about 3 music clips. They even have the Louis Armstrong track at the end.
Mm.
Craig actually says
The
we have all
car.
the time in the world. It's it shows how great the original was, but it just seems like they use too much of it. Personally,
Did you notice that, because it took a bit of time to realise what was going on at the beginning, where the guy is waiting in Tracy's room and Bond, you said George, Bond fights a great fight. Bond prevails, knocks him out. Then he's with the commandos. He's the commando with the flamethrower
Yeah.
on the assault. And then they're all at the wedding at the end.
Well, they're also in the
And
car.
I only noticed them at the wedding at the end this last time.
they're like his new mate.
I mean, they were so woke back in 1969 that the black guy gets 3.
Well, no. Like, to be fair, Andy, he's actually in quite a few scenes because he's in the car with the knife when they take him out of the hotel. He's at the fight, at the birthday party. He's actually sat around the table when they're having the chat. So it's not like it's not like Star Wars where they've rung in different people to play the extras. He's actually got that role, but it doesn't have a name, I don't think.
Yeah, one of those guys. The guy who had a fight with him on the beach, I've met a couple of times, Terence Mountain, and he's somebody that was in a lot of those ITC dramas.
Yes.
And he was also in Diamonds. He plays a bouncer at the beginning or whatever. He's one of the henchmen. Yeah, he's an interesting guy as well.
Did he share anything about the filming of that with you, Ian? That
I can't remember what he said now. I
anecdotes?
mean, this is 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember anything specific, but he enjoyed himself. He was a big fan of George Lazenby, actually. He said they were good mates.
Really?
And the one thing I remember him saying was that off set, they would be like hanging out together because they were both, youngish guys. I think they were both single. I think they played a lot of poker, drank a lot of whiskey, probably chased a few girls, but they had a good time
Ate
together.
a lot of garlic.
Yeah. Probably both chasing after Diana Rigg.
We've mentioned music, obviously, with the Louis Armstrong track, but there's another one here. Michael, do you know our Christmas trees are grown?
Yes, with love. And a large choir of children. At least that's what Nina tells us.
Yes.
And the Christmas song written for this film. In fact, Blofeld says, "Merry Christmas, 007."
Yes.
So it's the perfect seasonal film. It's a Wonderful Life, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. There's your Christmas Eve viewing sorted.
It is seen as the Bond
way, if you think about, without a doubt. But it's kind of macabre when he's wishing Merry Christmas and he's putting something on the tree. Like, you're about to kill off every plant and animal. And I wish it,
Merry Christmas.
Greetings.
Goodwill to all men.
Yeah.
And plants.
Don't use Don't use the you can use everything, but don't use the diffuser. That was it, wasn't it? Until we tell you.
Yeah.
What? It'd be like the deaf stuntman on Harry Enfield. What? Use the diffuser.
But I think locations, we talk about this a lot with books, but locations are very much the characters here as well, aren't they? Because, you know, obviously we've got Peace Gloria, much of the movie is set that's stunning. You've got the scenes in Portugal, again, that contrast between the sun and snowy ice caps. And also the College of Arms. And I'm sure you've been there, Ian, in London, and I visited last year. And I was actually surprised when I was told afterwards that they built the set, because the set looks exactly the same as the interior of the College of Arms.
Okay.
So obviously you've got the exterior where he walks in, that room, like, and the thing is the attention to detail. If you've never been in there, you'd have no idea that that is actually built to look exactly like
Interesting.
that entrance room, that lobby into the
Yeah.
College of
I've only
Arms.
been looking in from the outside. When I went there, it was shut, but I would like to pay a visit. Read what you
Yes.
said, yeah.
They are lovely people. And when I visited, I felt a bit awkward because they're like, oh, you know, you're here for heraldry. I'm like, no, I'm here for
Yeah.
Lazenby.
I'd like to meet Sable Basilisk. You know, it's a different world, isn't it?
It is. And they were very sweet. They were very nice. They pulled out some memorabilia and it's a free to go
Yeah.
in. So I recommend to any of our listeners visiting
will
London,
go.
if you can get over there. It's in a lovely part of London because you've got St. Paul's right behind it. And it was interesting in my research for this. Apparently there was a cut scene where there was a chase with one of Blofeld's people. I think it's the guy that is talking to Sable Basilisk, to George Baker, when they go in, and he's listening in on the conversation, and apparently it's a bit convoluted, but there's a recording device.
right.
Bond realizes it and chases him, and it was quite an elaborate chase where apparently at the end they go through some streets and then they duck down into the underground.
Yeah.
And I think it was like a postal railway, and he ends up killing this guy by kicking him onto the tracks, and the train takes him out. So they've cut that out because otherwise the movie would be 3 hours long.
Yeah.
But the scene, and again, I must confess, I only know this because I watched the extras on the DVD. When Bond arrives at Peace Gloria, you know, he comes in on the train and she meets him. You've got Campbell, Bernard Horsfall, watching him.
Yeah.
So it's his, you know, his help.
Wearing a great jumper. I love
undercover.
his jumper.
Well, that's probably why you didn't notice the next bit I was about to say. And if you look at the newspaper,
Yes.
it actually says 19 killed in rush hour rail accident. And that is referring back to the scene that they cut.
Right.
I was like, wow, that's going into some detail, isn't it?
I like that.
What an Easter egg that would have been.
You know, one thing we have. You know, one thing we haven't talked about is maybe one of the reasons the Lazenby sort of works is for a third of the movie, he's dubbed by George Baker, which is something that surprises me. It works as well as it does, but the Bond films were always so good at dubbing, you know, and
Yes.
I think that kind of works, you know. First, it's grating at first. You go, oh no, we're not going there, are we? But then you get used to it.
Well, it's even grating to George Baker, isn't it? Because they got to do it, and he does the accent, and imagine what it was like dubbing yourself, and he kind of even looks, and because so Hillary Bray is pretty reluctant in this, isn't he? He's not normally our thing, but if it is for national security, then we'll do it. So I agree with you, and I think it worked as well. Because first we're like, why is he wearing a kilt? Why is this guy wearing a kilt in the Schilterhorn? But this is an eccentric. I mean, he's going off to do brass rubbins in Brittany, right? This is always eccentric heraldry expert.
Yeah, I wish he kept the
glasses
on.
Then they're off. Then they're on.
Yeah,
Aren't they,
I wish he kept the glasses on the whole time he's there. I mean, I know that's Blofeld has that line. It takes more than a pair of spectacles to disguise 007, since we met in Japan last year. But I mean. Who knows? There could have been concussions that sort of, blurred the memories. You looked awfully different then, and you sounded Scottish. Yeah.
But you've got to leave that to one side, haven't you? I mean, we could debate that continuity thing. I mean,
and belief. Yeah,
absolutely. And even Blofeld's chopped his lobes or something as well to fit in with the Beauchamp heraldry claim.
But like the Piz Gloria and that, the interior design of it and all that. I mean, you'd be quite happy walking into that now.
I would, yeah, but I like retro.
It's sort of
it's cool, isn't it?
It's just sort of retro chic,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's lovely.
But that
Well,
wallpaper
it's
at
like
the
walking
beginning.
into Jason King's front room, isn't it?
Well,
Have you been to
yeah,
his
it is
house?
like
That's like
walking
his
in
house.
Jason
He's got
King's
all those
house,
women
really.
draped on the sofas.
But
Yeah.
that wallpaper on the staircase,
Speaking
it
of,
nearly
we
took
should
my
mention the
bloody eye out.
cinematography. And I did actually look up the cinematographer. He's a guy named Michael Reed, who is
Yes.
actually known for some mid 60s Hammer films, which those films
really?
usually look beautiful.
Yeah.
But this has got to be his masterpiece.
Yeah. And I particularly love the wallpaper in the hotel when Bond's
Yeah.
coming down the stairs to the casino. You look at it, it's this bright
It nearly took
purple.
my
It's
eye
just
out.
not a color you would see now, but it really stands out. It's amazing.
And you know, again, this is because I'm a nerd and I watch the extras. They actually use purple quite a bit in that movie because the presents the Angels of Death get at the end, they're all in purple gift wrapping paper. So there is some leitmotif that's going on
Yeah.
here with the set dresses with the color purple.
That would have been a trendy color at
Brilliant.
the time. Very trendy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
purple flock
Yes,
wallpaper.
that's right.
2 drops a roll.
And I mean,
Yeah.
talking of cinematography again, how were the fight scenes for you? The way that was edited. I'll start
Really
with you,
good.
Michael, because it was a bit different from other Bond movies, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think he feels like he cuts frames from the fight scenes and makes it has sort of a jumpy quality, which I think really works. I mean, we've all talked about how great Lazenby looks in these fight scenes. I mean, he brings those haymakers from downtown. You know, I mean, they're coming, especially in the fight scene in the ocean. I think all the fights are really good. I think the action is edited perfectly, but especially the fights, and even the fights on the beach in the pre-credits I think are pretty good.
Yeah, he was a
Yes.
natural brawler, wasn't he? I mean, he when they first filmed with him, I think he took it too seriously. I think he broke somebody's nose. He wasn't putting
Yeah,
his
Gunter,
punches.
whatever his name was. He was a Russian wrestler
Yes,
that
that's
appears
right.
as
Yeah.
one of the henchmen.
So there are pictures of him with blood on his face and looking a bit sorry for himself. But Lazenby thought, yeah, we've just got to fight like I did back in pubs in Australia or whatever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It jarred on me in previous watches the way they edited the fight scenes because it is jump cuts and everything. But and that's why I started off this episode by asking you when was the first time you watched it and how do you view it now? Because, you know, for me, it's been an evolution. You know, when I first watched it, I didn't really care for it that much. It was just an odd Bond film. But like you were saying, I think, Michael, earlier on, the more I watch it, and I watched it twice this week, I enjoy it more and more with each viewing. And I think that's because my tastes have changed. You know, 12-year-old Shane, like, oh, there's a love scene in it. He gets married. No, I don't want any of that.
I
know?
don't think it's particularly a child-friendly Bond
It
film.
was for me.
You know, well, you know, fair dues, but like bands, it's really, really successful bands have got a cartoon quality. You think of any successful band, be it the Smiths or obviously the Beatles or Madonna or Bowie. There's a cartoon quality. Even Bond, I think successful Bond films have that, but there isn't really a cartoon quality, I don't think, in this particular film. That's why I guess it's a bit like a fine wine that the older you get, the more you appreciate it. And even today, I've appreciated it even more. It sounds ridiculous, but it's true.
Yeah. And before we get to the trench coat ratings here, before we wrap up, I want to ask each of you, and I didn't prep you for this, but what's the standout moment in this movie for you? Which part of this movie really stands out, Ian?
For me, it's the chase, which I'd include the ski chase, but particularly when he gets down to the ice rink, and then it's him and Tracy literally driving away, for their lives. And it does extend into the barn scene. But that chase, particularly the stock car racing, that whole scene was so well done.
How about you, Andy?
You really, it's very hard because there are so many in this, from the skiing, from the fighting with Blofeld in the bobsleigh, which was like a harking back to a Reichenbach Falls sort of fight between the two.
Holmes and Moriarty.
Yeah, the oppose, and you were talking earlier about Tully Savalas, and that is the thing that he although he was an older man, he could match Lazenby physically, and he's at the forefront of everything. He's not in the command tent at the back. He's on the front line. He's the one firing the flare. He's the one fighting. But to answer your question, one scene, my
And he
God, I don't
smokes his
know.
cigarette in a strange fashion, doesn't he?
Very odd.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a weird thing.
He's holding it like that, isn't he?
Yeah.
Or got a strange sort of grip like that,
Yeah.
you know, which is a bit weird. Yeah, I didn't ever notice that before, apart from today.
Yeah.
One scene, oh God, I don't know.
I'll come back to you then.
I'll go for the last
what about
scene
you,
because
Michael?
it did move
It's
me.
tough.
It
Yeah,
did
I
move
think the
me
skiing
today. Yeah.
with the music. Yeah,
I'm sorry, Michael?
I say the skiing to me with the music, that's James Bond. But I would say the scene that sticks with you is the wedding and the post-wedding.
The aftermath.
I mean, you have having MQ, Moneypenny all there. I mean, it feels like a family reunion before the tragedy.
Yes.
And
Yes.
of all the characters in this film, you really like Tracy. You love Diana Rigg. I mean, you have to. And then I think, Lazenby does the ending quite well. Yeah. So I'd have to say the ending.
Because I was reading as
Do you
well that
think,
on one of the
Michael-
takes, Lazenby was crying at the end of that.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Peter Hunt was like, no, Bond doesn't cry. Like, I think it would have worked with the tears because it just shows he's human after all.
Yeah, but
Well, he
back
does
then,
cry.
it wouldn't have been approved of, would it? I think Lazenby was reading the book. He had the book in the car, and he's reading that scene to get emotionally involved. And he, a tear did come down, and Hunt said, "No, we've got to do it again without any tears." So he did a second take, and that's the one they used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when he puts
mean,
his head in her, when he sees his face goes away, we do hear a kind of
You
whimper.
hear him weep.
But I
you
guess
hear
you
him
can't
weep,
see
yeah.
a tear from James
No,
Bond,
no.
which is
Yeah.
okay.
You hear him
that's
weep.
too bad.
Very,
Definitely.
very moving scene.
It is.
Do you think it was jarring the way they brought the theme music in at the end?
It surprised
Sort
me.
of say, right, back to
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
I thought that was very jarring.
Yeah, I thought
how
that
they
when
did
I watched it. I watched it a few days ago and thought I was surprised at that because it was such
Yeah.
a sad moment, and then suddenly, bang, we're back on the theme. Yeah, yeah, a bit odd.
I tell you what I thought was jarring was how quick the old Bill showed up. Middle of nowhere, been a shooting. Old Bill rocked up straight away. That wouldn't happen today, would it?
No.
Sorry to ruin it. It's a very emotional end. But Andy, come back to you. Did you recall a standout moment for you from the movie?
I'll go for the ending because I have
Mm.
seen it several times and I've read the book several times. But today, I found it quite moving. I don't know. It's the way it can get you. It's been a long year.
Yeah.
But I'll go for the end. But there are so many
great moments.
moments from beginning to end. I think it's a fantastic movie.
What about you, Shane?
Well, for me, there's only really one standout moment, and this is 12-year-old Shane speaking now. And Andy referenced this earlier on. When James Bond is sliding on his chest with his Sterling submachine gun, taking him
It's a
out.
great moment.
12-year-old boy doesn't want, never mind all the women and everything else, but 12-year-old boy doesn't want to do that. And that's always, whenever I think of this movie, that's what's always, and apparently, because that was Peter Hunt's suggestion. It was on the day of, he said, oh, can you do it sliding in? It wasn't scripted, it hadn't been thought of beforehand. So I thought that was, again, genius by Peter Hunt. And I'm left, really regretting that he wasn't given more opportunities to direct these movies, because when it touches like that, he was close to the source. Andy, you mentioned earlier on about what Bond wears in this. I mean, a lot of that was driven by Peter Hunt. He was a bit of a dapper dresser himself, apparently.
I liked his golf outfit.
He took Lazenby out to get outfitted. He took Lazenby out for dinners to try and give him that level of sophistication. But that is a standout. I just think that's pure Bond, that. All right, so if we do this a little differently, so the way I thought we would do this is I want to offer 2 trench coat ratings. First of all, where you would give this rating compared with other Bond movies. And then I want to give you an option to give it a rating as a spy movie in general. So, Ian, we'll start with you. In terms of the Bond movies, what trench coat rating are you giving this?
Out of how many? 5, is it?
Out of 5, I beg your pardon, yes.
I would give it 5. I think this and The Spy Who Loved Me are my 2 favourites. I think this is probably a better film, but I think Roger Moore was a better actor. but they're my two favourites. So I think of all the Bond films, I would put this, The Spy Who Loved Me, and then just behind them, Thunderball, Live and Let Die, From Russia with Love. That's the gun. That would be probably my top 5 at the moment. Compared to other spy films, I don't really. To me, it's not really spy. It's more kind of action, spy fantasy, really. But it's still a favourite. I mean, I think that something like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, which gets a bit of a mixed viewing of the more recent film, which I love, and then I'd include things like The Lives of Others, which is totally different. But I think it's certainly up there. I just don't think of it so much as a spy film as a kind of action adventure film, really.
And that's why I thought we would split the ratings this one, because I would agree with you on that.
Yeah.
What about you, Andy? In terms of the other Bond movies you've seen?
I would stick by my guns and say that it is the best film. It is the best of the Bond movies. Again, seconding what Ian says, it's not my favourite. My favourite is The Spy Who Loved Me for various reasons, heritage reasons. But yeah, that's it. Again, it's not really a spy movie, is it? I think the nearest he comes to it is when he gets the massive device to unlock the safe.
That's a great scene,
and
though. Such a great scene.
You should have seen the batteries. You know, it's one of them.
And the
Isn't
fact
it?
that he's reading, was it Playboy or something? He's just,
He reads Playboy.
Yeah, that was
casual.
great. You
Just
know,
nice little touch
Yeah.
like that.
Was that scene cut out? Because I don't remember that when I was a kid, that scene. And I remember getting the VHS.
They may have cut
years
it
later.
out.
I was like,
I've got
oh,
a feeling they
gosh.
cut it out when they showed it on TV.
Yes.
Yeah.
oh, right.
Possibly
Okay.
for length.
And, I was like,
Yeah.
and Playboy.
Yes.
Yeah, miss.
Can't show a Playboy on
That was a
TV.
real product placement as well, because they'd serialized on a Majesty Secret Service, I believe. So that was like real kind of product placement.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and it's that's really the size of the spy, and he gets the Minox out, doesn't he? But you know, really, Bond in the films, he's an assassin, isn't he? He's not really an intelligence gatherer, is he? Let's face
Correct.
it. You know, and the mission here is to find, locate, and eliminate Blofeld,
Yeah.
isn't it?
And not many spies would
But
be
he
well
does-
known by all these hotel owners all over the world, would they? You know, they all seem to
No.
know Bond.
You know? But in terms of against all other, as I say, what's it, raincoat rating? So I'd give this one 5. As a spy film, I'd give it 3, I guess,
Yeah.
in that genre, because as I say, it's action adventure, isn't it? It's not really.
How about you, Michael?
Yeah, 5 for the Bond films for sure. It's like I said, it's my favorite, and for many reasons. As a spy film, you know, I find as I get older, I'm more interested in, you know, I can watch Funeral in Berlin and Ipcress File kind of on a loop, you know, or Tinker Tailor is really something that I really gravitate towards, and Bond, you know, has kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit, but I do think there is a little bit of genuine spying in this, you know, some genuine sort of, maybe not spying, but sort of SOE type tricks. I mean, you mentioned the pulling of the pockets, you know, so used
Yeah.
for on the cable car line, and that sort of thing, you know. I think the radioactive lint comment at the beginning is a direct reference to, well, in the last movie, we had a flying gyrocopter and a helicopter with a giant magnet. You know, we're not doing that in this movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd probably give it a 4, I guess, for a spy film.
And I actually thought it was quite nice that we got to see M outside of his office. You know, we see him at the wedding. We
Quarterdeck,
see his house
yeah.
for the first time. You know, he's become more of a character. We don't see so much of Q, and we don't see much of Q in this episode of Spybrary because Q Branch haven't sent me any clips to add to the episode. They're obviously taking an early break over at Q Branch. Unfortunately, we don't have all the time in the world. We have to wrap up this episode. I feel we could go at least another 2 hours on this because there's a lot more things we could discuss with this movie. I would like to thank Ian Douglas of Hildebrand for joining us, author Andy Onyx, and Professor Michael Huey. I will add all their details to the show notes. And we would all like to wish you a very Merry Christmas, a very happy holiday, a prosperous and safe New Year. And if you do celebrate Christmas, we hope you find lots of spy books and DVDs under your Christmas tree rather than socks and slippers. Gentlemen, thanks a million for coming on to Spybrary today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Cheers.
All the best. Thank you.